first Talking Stick show, and I am joined again by Nel Kuc. Hello, Nel.
Hello, Dave. Nice to see you again.
You too. We finally got here. We had a few technical gremlins and difficulties, so it's great. We were going to do the show yesterday, but it didn't work out, so we are here today.
Yes.
So what have you been up to then, Nel? How have you been since we last spoke before? What have you been doing?
Oh, it has been a very busy time for me. I went back to my home country for a couple of weeks when I spent a really beautiful, rich time with my family and friends. And I came back. I was doing a lot of painting, seeing some people, being in nature a lot. Yeah. That's me.
So what workshops have you been doing? I saw you do, was it the drum making workshop you were doing?
I was in Poland. I was holding the space for a women's circle sisterhood celebration weekend when we were all gathering for one weekend. And I'm planning to run a drum beating workshop at the end of November for men and women, when people can make their own medicine drum over the weekend.
Beautiful. And so we've got, I think we've got a bit of an echo. 1 second going on here. It should be all right, actually. It doesn't sound echoey at the moment. So what's happened during this, when you went and did the retreat? What happened? What was the process, and what were you doing specifically and going into?
I think the main message coming from the circle in Poland was about really bringing ourselves together in a deep space of trust and opening our hearts to surrender. Yes, it was a very deep journey, and I think that's also my own personal journey now in this time we are in, to surrender and to trust. And yeah.
Lovely. So we talked about. So I'm trying to think. Do you reckon you turn the speaker down a tiny little bit? We've got a bit of an echo here now. Just a tiny bit of, perfect. So let's go into the principles of trust then now. What does trust mean? Why is it important? We'll start going into the mechanics of coming together and the importance of coming together. But one of the most important things about coming together is trust. Why is trust important, and what does trust mean?
So trust means for me that to remember that we are always guided, and there is this highest being, highest energy, the highest vibration, who is really taking care of us all, wherever we are, whatever we are experiencing as a human beings in this lifetime. And for me, it's constantly feeling and connecting to the presence of my ancestors and my spirit guides and the Divine Mother and the Divine Father, the Sacred Union. So they can mirror whatever is happening within myself and show it to me, so I know what is the main work I need to do here and now to feel more peaceful in myself and to find myself more and more in a space of trust that whatever is going on in our outside world, I can always go within and find a sacred temple, the space of pure love, compassion, and peace.
Beautiful. And so when we're growing up, how does this lack of trust come about then when we don't trust? What's kind of like the external world showing us when we grow up? Why do we grow up with these programs of having this untrust with everyone? I've had it before where I've not trusted myself, so it's kind of reflected on everything else, and I've stopped myself from gathering in groups about 8 years ago. So going back to the question, so what happens in this world? Why do we not trust people? What happens to people to make them not trust each other?
What's coming to me is that sometimes when we're experiencing a very difficult situations in life, when we are hurt by someone, mostly what is happening, I think, especially when we are younger, we are blaming the whole world. We are blaming everyone else instead of really going within and seeing, okay, so why this situation happened to me? What shall I learn from this person? I think before, when we are younger, we are not perceiving every person in our lives as the greatest teacher. And I think as much as we're having more and more experience in life, this is how we seeing everyone, even if we're going through difficult moments. And it's okay to allow ourselves to feel all the emotions coming, because we are humans and we can't feel the anger, we can't feel sad, we can go into the grief process. But at some point, at this moment, to realize that, yeah, instead of blaming and finding the, just being stuck in this heavy situation, we can really see the lessons coming to us from every experience, hard experience we experienced in the past. And I think it's helping to still trust, because to be in the space of trust, because through that experience we growing on a spiritual path, we knowing more about who we are and who we are not anymore, as we changing through this lifetime. And yeah, we have more clarity. And I think the compassion is also growing, the compassion towards ourselves and the compassion towards everyone.
Yeah. There's so anger as well. Why is it important to a lot of people, myself, we do get angry at times. A lot of people don't trust themselves because they get angry and they feel there's some sort of blame and shame on themselves. Let's talk about anger a little bit. Why is it important not to feel blame or feel guilty for when we get angry? Because that's another form of distrust as well.
I think it's good to feel anger sometimes, because
Yeah.
anger is always a part of the process of transformation. And when we are pretending that, okay, I'm feeling sad, but I'm never getting angry, then actually, this is my own experience, I'm suppressing my own emotions, because sometimes I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling like a lion. I would like to shout loud. And yeah, and this is what I'm doing. So when I'm feeling this anger, I'm allowing myself to express it. The same, I'm always trying to remind myself that if my kids getting angry, I have two sons, just allowing them to express the anger, because after all, they will find their own peace. But when I'm saying to myself that it's not good to express my anger, it's not good to shout, to be loud, to cry, just to, I don't know, it just feels like I'm blocking something within, and it will come out in a more and more powerful way. So the way how I'm expressing how I'm letting go of my anger is through movement. I love to dance. So when I'm dancing and I'm going into the state of chaos, the music is louder, I can move my body much more faster. This is when I'm feeling okay. That's the space for me where I can move the anger and transform it into something else. And mostly the anger is transformed again into the pure love. But it's a journey. So I think it's good to be aware of what we're feeling. It's good to know to be able to name our feelings, our emotions. If it's a shame, if it's a sadness, if it's a projection, whatever it is, being aware of it, working with it, and transform it.
Beautiful. And so looking back at those moments in our childhood, those areas where our parents or whoever looked after us kind of blamed us or said, don't feel like that, don't do this, or don't feel anger. For me, that was one of the biggest, hardest things to kind of reprogram myself was my parents always saying, don't shout or don't swear, or you don't get angry, don't be angry here. And you're like, I felt like I was just, each time I did that, you suppressed something inside yourself. So it kind of like built up and you needed to have a big release. And that's why we have so many people have big depressions and stuff, which lead to depression because they've got so much unresolved anger inside themselves. So how does this lead? So how can we, so dancing is one of the ways to kind of break anger. Is there any other ways of learning about how to nurture the anger and nurture the self once you've been angry?
I think one of the best things for me to do when I'm angry, I think that it's going into a nature, into a quiet place, and really shout for a while. Let the voice, the anger, go out, find their way to just to let it go, because yeah, and I think it works really well. So this is what I was doing many times in my life when I was feeling really that something is coming up, and I didn't want to project it to any other people around me. This is what I was doing. I was just shouting in the nature, just really trusting, and the nature is just taking it, and I can again transform it into, because my intention was good. You know, I knew that holding this anger within, I can't do anything else, anything good for anyone. So through expressing that anger through the sound, I think the sound is one of the most powerful medicine. Working with your own sound, really trying to see where your voice is taking you. Especially now, I think when through this time of restrictions, we are not really giving ourselves permission to speak our truth. It's that voice that needs to the throat chakra, which is connected with the first chakra too, the grounding. So I've been working with our own sound and finding the medicine in seeing what our own sound wants to show to us. And we can go very deep into this time when our voice was suppressed as we were very young and we were not allowed to share how we are feeling. We're not allowed to show any emotions. We were taught how to be polite, how to put a mask on our face and pretend that everything is okay. So I think now, whatever is happening in this outside world, in this reality, 3D reality, it's showing us what we can find within ourselves, the power that will bring us back to our source, when we will feel full, when we will feel safe, when we will be in a space of deep trust, present in our heart space, and also where we'll be able to surrender.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that was one for me, was when you kind of go through this awakening journey for myself, because everything's on social media and everything's kind of gone into a space where you're only seeing all this positive stuff. It seemed like there was a huge I don't class myself as a light worker, but the new age, I hate using those terms, but just kind of the new age type movement. It's all about everyone's just completely happy all this time, and there's all that energy where you're coming into awakening and you're like, hang on a minute, I can't see anybody talking about anger and saying it's fine to be angry. It's all that everything should be okay and I should be feeling love all the time. But being a human isn't like that. You do go through that process of experiencing anger and experiencing feeling like shit, and a lot of people are scared to have that. So from your perspective, why do you think people are afraid of being themselves? Because that's one of the hardest things for a lot of people, to be able to be themselves.
I think there was always a fear to really look into our shadows. And I think it's so much easier for us to pretend that we are this working light. We are not.
Light by the light, that's
Yeah, so I think it's really hard to realize the shadows, our own shadows, and one of the shadows also be okay with feeling anger, be feel with realizing that we projecting, even if we are the spiritual teacher or whatever, you know, however we naming ourselves in the work we're doing for the world or for the other people. I think it's it's hard to really see and what's really going on within. And I think what people like to share on a social media, it's part of the intention. It's to support those people who are in need, to really feel that it will be okay. And but I think we also need to know that it's okay to feel whatever we're feeling. It's okay. And I think, but this is just the beginning. And I think at the moment it's very difficult to do the work in a safe space when we can feel held and work with our emotions. I think that's why people are feeling very lost, because everything what is happening at the moment, it's happening online, and not everyone is feeling safe being a part of the online group. I'm personally not joining any online groups because for me it's not, I can't really find myself there. And so I can really sense the difference working and holding the space for other people, how different it is, especially now in this time we're in, when we are all coming together, and how we all need it, and how tough experience people are having in this lockdown time. And it's almost 7 months when we are on this journey. And I can say, yes, we're growing on a spiritual path. This year it's really like advanced level of really looking into the stuff we need to work out inside of us. But on the same time, for me, the message I'm receiving is, okay, it's really easy to get ignorant towards others people pain, because some people can be strong enough, some people can find their spiritual path, some people can have people around, friends around, family around, but there are so many people who don't have anyone and who don't have any support. And I think when we are all coming together in person, and there are real people who can listen to your story, there are real people who can give you a hug, bring you food, or ask you a few questions so you will feel heard. I think there is nothing like this. And so in this moment, I think we are able to really go into our shadows, really see the emotions coming up and being not afraid to express them. And the difference in the social media, it's, I think, I'm not talking about any online gatherings, because I truly believe that there are people who are holding very safe and sacred space for others. Uh, but I think on a social media, there is no space for that. So people sometimes looking at people, others, finding their spiritual path in this, during this year, and thinking, okay, I'm not good enough to do it. I don't know what is wrong with me, and they starting judging themselves. And I think um, it's not about that. It's about finding their own place, your own place. That will help you to confront yourself and find your own way to to see what is the next step in your life, what you can do to help yourself, and through that help others.
Beautiful. And those, it reminded me of I've been to some groups where it's so important just to even look at people in the eyes and make sure you're witnessed with someone who is there. For me, I did events online, and I'm not doing events online ever again if I can help it, because it got to the point where it was just not, I wouldn't say it just didn't feel authentic at all. It was, everyone was just kind of in their own room in different spaces, and just, it didn't feel like there was that connection where my heart was sharing the space with everyone around me. We're all in this heart flow. It kind of felt like a big separation. And for me, that process of learning that, and now I'm not going to do events online, and I did my first event face to face, a weekend. It was like a full day on Saturday and full day on Sunday. And the energy I had to get and difference I had to be present and hold space like that was completely different from hiding behind the computer. I had to really use my own personal skills, discernment, and yeah, you have to have human skills. Like for me, it was hard integrating myself back to speaking to people properly again. It was really weird because I was so used to doing everything online and not speaking to people. I was like, Jesus, I have to look at you in the eyes and engage again and learn this being a human again. I have to learn this beautiful journey of us sharing space with each other and growing, because so now looking into that aspect, so why is it important to share space together, and why is it important that this is for our own personal growth? We have to share space and speak to people and have friends, so on and so forth.
I think because it's natural, nothing else is coming to me. It's like we were living like this since the beginning of time, if there is a beginning of time. I think what was really surprising me, that we so easily as a human race jumped into the web, the internet. That's really surprising, but I think it might be like an experiment for us all to see how we're finding ourselves in this web. You know, if we can still really can continue the work we were doing in person, in on the internet. But I think many people are really realizing that it's not the same as you shared here, Dale, because I do believe, and I know that there are people who are still holding the space on a Zoom or different, on a social media. But and I think it's needed because not everyone can just drive and come. Not everyone is feeling safe and, in whatever is going on outside. So I think it's beautiful that there are still people who can do those kind of work. And there are people who are stepping out from the fear and just continuing doing the work that they were doing before in the same way. Really. So, yeah.
Beautiful. And so going on to your groups, what you were doing, one of the when I first listened to your and saw all your artwork and what you were doing, it was beautiful to see that you were bringing this feminine these feminine groups where the sisterhood came together, which is from the beginning of time, from the Native Americans' teachings, the grandmothers and the grandfathers. There was always this union of the grandmothers coming together or the grandfathers coming together, either a male group or a female group, to honor the cycles of the women, honor the cycles of the men. Can you just explain a little bit about the groups where you hold space for the feminine energy, and talk and explain why that's so important during this time of this craziness, what we're going through at the moment?
I do believe that we were always, as a human race, going through this time of changes. And so we are in this time of changes again. My intention for the Sisterhood Celebration Weekend, this is how we're calling it, was to bring back the memory and this real feeling of a sisterhood and work out the shadows from the past. Because so the women who are joining are aware of the shadows we need to heal. So we're taking responsibility, coming into the space, into the circle, to heal the past, heal the wounds, heal the shame, heal the blame, heal the projections and the lies, so we can really see ourselves in the eyes of the other sisters. So that's the main, I think, direction. There are many. The other one, the intention for the circles, is also about going back into our roots, really tuning into the energy of our ancestors, really asking ourselves who we are, who I am here and now. What is my tribe? Where are my roots? What I want in my life? Where are my boundaries? Because in this busy life, we don't have the time to really focus on who we really are, what we want, and then we're just finding ourselves in the chaos. So I think this is the safe space when women can come and explore themselves in a different way. We also working a lot with this tribal energy, indigenous energy, when we awakening the energy through the movement. I'm holding the space for a sacred dance for women and shamanic trance dance when it's a group for men and women. So it's a very ancient technique, I will say, or I better prefer to say one of the most highest form of meditation, where we can, through the movement, discover who we are, really deeply trusting our body and trusting our heart that it's the only way we will be always guided through life. So it's about really letting go of the control, letting go of our heads and allowing our body to guide us. And through the dance, we receiving so many messages coming from our ancestors, coming from the spirit guide. And so when we live in the circle, mostly we're feeling filled with so many new inspirations. And so I think we're feeling also more with ourselves, and we're feeling more clarity about the future, the simplicity of life we're sharing with others. But there is this clarity about our boundaries. There is clarity about our needs, our dreams, our visions, what we want to manifest, building also that vision together, because it's a part also of this time we are in now. We all feeding the global vision of how we want to live as a community, the global community. So we can really sense what it's not working for us anymore. And we can really see what we want to call into our lives. So we can all live in balance, in harmony, in joy, in compassion with everyone around. So I'm very passionate about holding the space for women, and it's always very powerful because we are very powerful. But I think we are those ones who are so connected with Mother Earth. We're giving birth to our kids. We're really tuning into the cycles of the moon, and we are so connected with elements. And I think we have this natural sense of being one with nature.
So there's so looking into the feminine cycle there, I've had some clients where, because I do some readings and look into their energy fields, and there seems to be a lot of dysfunction with their their period of reflection, where they, for me, it's kind of like when the women go through this process of when they do bleed, the blood is a gift from the Earth Mother, and it's a sign of the Earth blood, and it's something which back in tradition, Native American traditions, Kokopelli traditions, that was their time of silence, where they used to go, and when they had the moon cycle, they didn't speak, and they just went into their own womb, and they went into that feminine side of themselves. Let's talk a little bit about going through that process and what it involves, and why it's so important for us to be able to use it as a spirit, for women to use it as spiritual, say, empowerment and healing.
It's a beautiful question. I think it's also the part of the codes we were given when we were younger as a little girls, that I think bleeding was really connected. We have this memory to feel ashamed. We were being not we were not prepared to really honor that sacred blood, and we were not prepared to really be grateful and happy to become a woman. So I think it's the work we need to do in our lives as adults to really discover the sacredness of that time we're experiencing every month, with the full moon or with the new moon. And the energy is different when we're bleeding in the full moon. It's different when we're bleeding on the new moon. And there are so many paths. I'm still discovering the magic of it. And because I'm a painter, I was using my menstrual blood to paint. And what was really amazing, it was not the painting where I was really having the clear vision of what I wanted to paint. I was just having this blood, and the blood was showing me messages. So I think there is so much magic in it when we really trusting that we are on this healing journey in every moment of our lives. And it's very good to be quiet. It's very good, as much as we can, to spend time in nature, to give our blood to the earth with gratitude and intention. And yes.
And it reminds me, even when I grew up with people around in high school, when they went through their process and say they didn't have anything to protect themselves, everyone just saw it as, oh, that's not nice at all. It's kind of a nasty thing women have to go through, and it's kind of pushed to the side, really, instead of being embraced by the community and being embraced back to the roots of the sacred feminine, where the cycle is connecting to the earth blood. And you've got, like you said, you having that journey of you connecting through visions or memories from going into the blood and working with the blood. It's such a sacred thing. Like for me, even when I bleed, when I've got a cut, I absolutely love blood. When I see it, I'm like, it really connects me to the planet when I see blood. Not saying I love watching myself cut myself and stuff, but I do love the color of blood. There's something, and it's like we all share this red blood. Every species on the planet shares the red blood code, and it's like something what connects us all together as a collective.
Yeah, and then we're feeling much more sensitive. I think the blood is taking us on a journey to really be more aware. I think it's that um, uh, animalistic, if this is the right word, energy. I think the senses are more open. We are more aware of our body, of everything what's happening in our body, and we are so much more aware that we are connected with this invisible web, with everything what is outside. So for me, the moon cycle is taking me on a journey when I'm feeling more and more connected uh, with the nature. You know, I can more and more listen to the trees and understand what is their message for me, and to the winds, and yeah.
So there's that state where you go into finding truth by living in the natural way, and it does feel we've gone so far, a lot of us, from the natural path and the natural way. There are many women out there who suffer from their cycle where they don't have a cycle anymore because they've got so much stress and trauma in their body that they've actually stopped themselves from feeling the blood and feeling their own flow. So that's a great way to look at it, that going more into the natural way and listening to the trees, listening to the plants, it's something which can connect you back to the menstrual cycle, connect you back to the energies of the elemental force, so on and so forth. So what's your advice for those people who do suffer from deep traumatic stress and don't have any cycle? Is there anything you can give them as inspiration?
Yeah, I do believe that if you would like to discover the sacredness of the bleeding, I think it's there are a beautiful group called Red Tents who are talking a lot and diving deeper into this whole journey of us being very young as a woman, and the memories we were having from the first bleeding. I think this was the time when we just blocked the magic of this experience. And I think also um, joining women's circle is very helpful, because we in a circle we have women going through so many different stages in lives. We have those young women who just already starting this life and they're so excited and so full of energy and trust, and we have mothers who are really busy hours and are so grateful to have this one day and one night for themselves to really tune into what's going on within themselves. And we have those women who are the crones and going through the menopause, or just are after the cycle starting, as the wise medicine woman. Uh, and when you see it in the cycle, in the circle, with all those women feeling their wisdom, listening to their wisdom, it's so much more easy to discover your own wisdom. Because I think sometimes we respecting other people, we seeing the beauty in others, we want to be like this person or the other person, but we can't really see the beauty we are holding within, and we are such a beautiful beings. I know this feeling when we're sitting in a circle. I'm looking at every woman every time when we're coming together, and I'm so overwhelmed by the beauty of each and every one of them, because everyone has something different to share, and we all have the story to share, and everyone has this very unique gift. And I think through joining the circle, we're discovering who we are. And also part of it is also connecting to the physicality of our human form. It's also connecting us to be okay with our emotions and be able to express them. And it's also helping us to really see the beauty of bleeding, of going, having the moon cycles. And yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. And so going to boundaries, you briefly discussed boundaries before, of how important boundaries is on our journey. So what does having your own boundaries mean, and why are boundaries so important in our life?
It's a work in progress, I would say. So So when we were talking in the beginning about feeling anger and blaming others, I think that's the main, that's those situations when we learning about the boundaries. So if we have another lessons really similar to the previous one, we can always think, okay, this is how I was feeling. I don't want that anymore in my life. So what shall I say? Learning about how to say no, no, thank you. Like my little son, he's 6, he's going to the Steiner school. And I remember when he was 3.5, he was coming back home and he was just saying to me, no, thank you. And it was just so straight, I knew that this is what he doesn't want. And he was just really expressing that very, he was not angry, he was not sad, he was just saying it because this is what he felt. So I think boundaries are very important. It's the first very important reason why they're important is when we know how to, where our boundaries are, we know also how to respect and how to realize what kind of boundaries other people are having. When we are not aware of our own boundaries, we are not aware of someone else's boundaries, and then we can just really easy forget about that there is something like boundaries in this life. And so for me, my journey with boundaries, it was through through pain and through disappointment and towards myself and others. But in this moment now, I'm feeling stronger because I know more about my boundaries, and I know more what I don't want, and I know more what I want in my life. So when the situations are coming to my life and I can really see, okay, so the Great Spirit wants to check in with me, I've learned that lesson. I'm just sitting with it for a moment and saying to myself, yes, I'm okay. I'm okay to say no. I'm doing it for myself, to honor myself, to respect myself. And this is a lesson for the other person who's coming into my energy field to learn about my boundaries. And it's this sometimes fear of attachment, what will happen if I will say no and those people will just disappear? If they will disappear, they will disappear. But I think as I'm getting older, I know that those people who need to be in this moment in my life, they are the right people. And it will be changing, people coming and going, but we will never run away from ourselves. So I think the journey in this lifetime to be more aware of who am I, what is this I, and what is my intention in this lifetime, and how I want to walk through this lifetime, to feel in balance with myself, because I think if we're feeling in balance with ourselves, holding the both qualities, the feminine, the masculine energy, the boundaries we've learned, the people have more clarity surrounding us of who we are, and they're feeling much more safer, feeling the boundaries. It's like when you are a parent, when you are not keeping any boundaries in your family life between you and the kids, sometimes they feeling very lost, because sometimes they need to hear, okay, that's it, that's enough, that's the boundary, and they feeling safe. Sometimes when parents they doesn't have any boundaries, I've spoke to few people through my lifetime when about the memories we were having from the childhood, and I remember when they were saying they were feeling lost. They were feeling that sometimes the parents were not really thinking about them, caring of them, because they were allowed to do everything. And so I think boundaries are always good when we setting them up with the intention of caring of each other, and respecting each other's needs and emotions, but also listening to our heart and feeling what is right, our body.
Yeah, And that reminds me of having got children myself, is having that respectful boundaries where they learn to have to, because the thing with children, they do to kind of tend to come and take, it's in the nature of children to take, not intentionally take your energy from you, but because there's so much light about them, it's like you're a credit card. So what they try and do is to come up to you and try and credit card you for energy. So when they say I want a snack or anything like that, it's so important to give them compassion, give them the space and the time, and understand the heart space connection from their heart to yours, and listen to them and what they're going through. But it's, yeah, and how it's so important to have that boundary and that space where you go, I'm coming in now and I'd like you just to leave me for a second so I can gather my own energy and I can become a better parent. Because a lot of parents get so burnt out because they just go in and it's just, they've given themselves so much out all the time and there's no boundaries. And that's like a very, very unhealthy part of myself, which I've learned to have some sort of boundaries and say, look, I'm doing this now, can you please just give me a few minutes of my own time to have that. And they learn from that, don't they? They learn from you setting those boundaries to become more of a self-supposed person and leading your own self as well.
Yeah, I think they are the most powerful teachers of us, learning about our own boundaries because they're checking us every day, no matter how old they are. My older son is 20 and the youngest one is 6, but yeah, I'm just having those checks, with them all the times when I can really feel, okay, I've done it again and again. Maybe next time will be better. But yes, I do agree with what you have said, that it's important to communicate that we're feeling just exhausted because they have a different energy. They just have lots of energy and our rhythm is different now. So it's so difficult just to follow their rhythm. And for them, it's really difficult to follow ours. We are boring, if we are not following whatever they want to do during the whole day. So I'm doing the same with my youngest son now. I'm just saying, okay, I'll have something warm to drink because mostly I'm forgetting that I just made something, a tea, and 1 hour later I'm just drinking this cold drink. So I'm saying, no, it's still warm. I will sit and need to drink it, and then we can play again. Yeah. But we need it. We need it. We will need it for the future. So yeah, it's that. Sometimes it's good to be this witness, step out from our body, from the situation, not being so attached to emotions. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm doing it more and more often now. Just really stepping out and witnessing the situation and coming back. And my reaction is not so emotional, I'm not feeling so much frustration, or I'm just really watching it as the observer, and it's so different. The reaction is so different, especially with kids.
And it's interesting about being an observer. There's like you call like being in the light or being in the dark. There's an observation point what we all experience, which I feel is more of like a neutral state, where we just, like you say, observe things. And that as parent, it's great to observe and trying to express being neutral as possible. So everything doesn't overload you when you're an observer, when you're in your own space and just experiencing the world for what it is without being entangled in it or being reacting to it. And one of the biggest things that I've learned from being a parent is reactions and triggers, and they will try and trigger you no matter what. And no matter what you're doing, if you're in the car, like Marley and Heath will be shouting at each other, then they'll be play fighting and screaming. And then it's like I've got these two choices. Do I react and make it worse, and all the reaction does make them worse, or do I just listen to it and obviously tell them and just try not to react? So that's interesting that you say that like what, so how is being the observer, why is that so important in everyday life?
Yeah, I think it's helping really not to create a chaos, because we need to remember that we're all going through this intense energy transition together. our kids too. So I don't know if you've noticed that, but I can see that Natalie is very sensitive to the energy, and I think most of our kids are when we are able to see it. And I think the witnessing, it's really helping to not be so in whatever is happening. And I just wanted to say something, I forgot. Yeah, but when you said I know. So when you said about, you know, reacting when you feel that the situation is getting more and more intense, I think for me it's also important when I'm just really angry. Sometimes I am with them. I just, you know, change the way how I'm talking today. Maybe it's louder. I'm not really shouting, but you know, it's louder. Natanya is saying to me, Mama, you are shouting to me. I said, I'm not really shouting, but yes, I am angry, you know, because I've said that a couple of times and you are not listening. You know, we have those moments. And because I'm not like this often, he's really sensing that he done something I don't want to say wrong because it's not the wrong, it's not the right word. It's that he done something against my own boundaries, you know, and to have that healthy relationship, we need to learn about our needs and we need to learn how to listen to each other. So I think when I'm expressing my emotions, and even if it's hard for my kids, I think it's good for them to know that I am able to do it, because then in the future they will be okay to express their emotion and it will be not the end of this world, and they will not feel that, you know, we will never love each other again, we'll never speak to each other again. They will just know that this is a part of this human life. We all have emotions and we can express them, but then when we can talk about this and sometimes say, I'm sorry, you know, I was having a bad day, maybe I just said something what was not really nice, I'm sorry. They will know how to come back together, how to heal the relationship, how to explain why we react in this way. So I do believe that it's great to be authentic, authentic, just authentic, you know, to be ourselves.
Yeah, and that's for me, like when I became a parent, of making sure I'm being authentic. And if you do go through those times of where you do say you don't get on, or you have a slight argument, or you get angry, is moving forward and always leading by example, like moving forward and forgiving each other. Forgiveness is a big part of it, and teaching your kids how to forgive and move forward, even if shit happens between two people. There's that level of responsibility, and for the person then to grow together, and even if they cut ties with each other or don't want to be together, in family situations, couple situations, it's always learning about forgiveness and acceptance for the present moment. And a lot of people hold resentment and hold bitterness, and that's something what I want to have out of my children, is because I felt when I grew up there was a lot of bitterness and resentment when I got told off, and they're in a mood with me for a while and stuff like that. So there was always that around. So it's like trying to mix it up, isn't it? And trying to be a bit balanced about, if you do go through those difficult moments, always making sure you heal and learn from the experience.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. I think there will be so much, you know, more aware of the relation, how the relationship, how they can build a healthy relationship in the future when we allowing them to feel and when we allowing ourselves to be authentic with whatever we feeling.
Beautiful. So for you, being a mother, before we leave, what's the biggest lesson or biggest inspiration of being a mother? Of what's really, what have you learned from being a mother? What's the mechanics of it?
I think the main journey is that I think I became a very clear about my path in life. They were the greatest teacher, they still are, my son. And from the beginning, I felt that I want to be the best person, the best version of myself for them. And through that, I discovered who am I and what is my path in life. And since then, I'm just following my heart. And so, yeah. I think this is the main gift I have received in this motherhood, on this motherhood journey. Really following my heart and being the best version, showing them to them that they need to follow, they can follow their heart, and it's
Beautiful.
okay because we have, our dreams and they can be different, but just following our heart.
And there's that term whether respect your elders or respect your elders. For me, it should be honouring your ancestors, because that again is one of the biggest processes that I see. I went through that change of when I was younger. I resented my parents and I resented having someone as a father and a mother. I didn't like it, and I went off to kind of disconnect from it, thinking, oh yeah, I'm just going to be completely disconnect from my parents. Still loved them, but I kind of went off and did my own thing. Still didn't spend as much time with them. But now it's kind of, for me, it's all about learning about your ancestors and honoring them and honoring your own self lineage. And like you talk about being authentic means being in your own DNA lineage to your ancestors who have passed on, and learning about that. You're passing on the torch of eldership to your children, and the more you heal within yourself. I spoke to a lady who's on Debbie last week on the show. She was it was a great term. What you heal in yourself, you heal in your children.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And I do believe that, especially in this Western society, we have this chapter in our lives when we want to forget about our family. And we have this, rebellious feeling about everything what happened to us in the past, in the childhood, and we want just to really go far away and forgot about that there is there is a family somewhere there. But I think it's also a natural, and there is this moment when we're coming back and realizing that thanks to them, we are here and we can just do everything what we want in this lifetime. We can manifest the best life for ourselves and for our kids, for our family. We want to manifest. So I do believe that when the same intention we're having when we're gathering in a circle, that through our own healing, we're healing the generations in the past, the work that couldn't be done in the past, and the generations to come. So it's a huge responsibility. So we can choose to be blind and just to sit in the comfort zone, pretending or projecting that this is everyone's fault, what is happening to us, or we can take responsibility for our own healing, because we will probably leave this planet earlier than our kids. So we to leave for them a better world.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So what have you got coming up then now? What events have you got coming up?
I've got a couple of women's circles happening soon. Yeah. I will be running a daily workshop for women in the beginning of November. It's all we following together with this venue, following all the rules and restrictions. So we are allowed to have 15 people in this venue. It's a day workshop of ceremonies, dancing, sharing circle, and we will be opening the healing space for us all. And I will be holding the space for a shamanic drum beating workshops for women and men at the end of November. And there will be a few different events happening for women's circles.
Lovely. And Facebook is what's your name? Facebook, is it? So if people want to find you, how will they be able to find you?
I think maybe contacting me through Messenger. That will be the best way, because I'm not advertising anything on a social media. So if people would like to follow what I'm doing or join some of my retreats, you are very welcome to contact me on Messenger. You can find me as a Nel Kuc on a Facebook, and you can send me your email address, so I will be sending you the information about coming events.
Beautiful. And thank you so much, Nel, for coming on the show, and we'll do it again in maybe 4 or 5 months, because I really appreciate you, and it's so interesting to hear your journey. And thank you so much for coming on, Nel.
Thank you so much, Dale. It was beautiful to hear your stories and talk to you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone watching the Talking Stick Show. I really appreciate your comment and feedback as well. And if you are on YouTube, just to subscribe and support this healing page. So I hope you have a great evening, morning, daytime, wherever you are. Aho. Thank you.
Aho.
Thank you. Now, thank you.